just a update video on the new firearm regs and the pushback and the issues that have been created over here in Western Australia regarding firearm bans and the mess that's coming forward in the next little while, unless we can push it back. Okay, a couple of things. One would be the group that I mentioned that is coming with Louise Kingston and there's an email below to email her if you're interested in that side of things. She has organised a group of people that are in the process of having meetings to basically establish the right way forward to do this sort of stuff. It's taking longer than I want it to, but they're being very, very thorough about what they're doing. And hopefully in the next short while, whether that's 1 week or 1 month, but there will be a group name, there will be a group, and I think that even a potential to one. I think that may even be something that she puts out to people to come up with suggestions as to what we call it. It's the Australian Freedom Group, or it's the Australian Bill of Rights, or I don't know what there's going to be lots and lots of suggestions as to what that is. But that, just being very thorough about make sure they get it right, make sure it's fully official, legal, and it hasn't made the mistakes that have been made so many times before. Want to be part of a new, fresh group in some form or other, to basically not do the same thing that we've done before and it hasn't worked. All the groups and things we have, for as good as they've tried, we are in this place now, so we've obviously got to stop doing what we have been doing and do something different if we want a different result. So that is, just watch this space. That's not going to be too far away. Another thing, a couple of weeks ago, I did a video talking about genuine need, which is this crazy system we've had for a long time, and it's been now modified into a different thing for basically ultimately a way of limiting more and more firearms to the public of Western Australia. But this particular one was discussing about property owners and how they have to register, a whole process, which I'll get into something in a second. They have to register, and in that then their property is assessed and they get X amount of authorities that they can basically be used for people to shoot firearms on their property. Now, I presumed authority was like a property letter, so it was for one firearm. Lots of people pointed out it was for the shooter. And then you're going to be able to have 5 firearms on that authority. Well, they were right. It is for a shooter, which sounds good until my point was the properties that may have had 10, 20, 200 or 1,000 property letters out there, so firearms that could be, that property was used to purchase those firearms, giving them a genuine need. Well, the way I found out that, there's a lot of people that said they thought it was for a shooter for one authority, and that meant more than one firearm. But no one had put up that it is this is what's actually happened. Someone contacted us and said, yes, it is definitely for the shooter. They knew because they had, and I've forgotten the details, whether it was 5,000 acres or it was 10,000 hectares, decent sized property. And they knew that it was for the shooter because they were allowed 7 authorities, quite a common number. There's 7 in some places, 15 in other places, but I don't know the differences. It doesn't make much sense at this moment. But 7 authorities, and they had 7 family members that all had 5 firearms on those authorities. So they'd already done it. Their property was now full. So it really said exactly what I was talking about, but there were per an authority meant for a shooter. And that farm, which it could have had, whether it was just 7 or it was 20 or it was 100 or it was 1,000 property letters attached to it, now it had just the family, so no one else is going to be able to get a firearm for, whether it was genuine pest control or it was protection because they're out fossicking in the desert, or for whatever reason they could have used that property previously if the owners wanted them to. Now there's none. So the same fear I have, it improves the point in exactly the same fashion. The thousands of firearms that are about to be not allowed because you can't get an authority because they've limited them monstrously by doing it the way they've done it per property. So, same thing. On that note, but it does raise a point. The police set up something to start off with which was unconstitutional. Well, there's a few things they've done unconstitutional, but it was federally unlawful. And that was they made it so that this whole system, registering system, had to be on my ID, so digital personal identification. So the digital ID. That's unlawful because we've had 2 referendums now, or 2 processes that have been through to say, do we want to have compulsory digital ID? And no, Australia said no, but the police have still gone down that road. So they did backpedal and come up with something fairly complicated, to where if you give them enough ID and enough this, that, enough that, and then they can approve it or still disapprove it because they're not happy with all the things you've done. So still making it awkward. It's still obviously designed around make it as hard as you can, so that basically giving them your phone to get digitally ID'd, just short of chipped in the neck, is what their strategy it really is. There is, and listen, that's there's all the issues that go with the digital ID for people who are aware of where that's actually heading. But there is a way out, but it is a very awkward way out. There are people which I know of where, be it a 75-year-old, a 70-year-old to a 90-year-old landowners that aren't on the internet even. They have a simple phone. They don't even have a smartphone. They have a lot of trouble through this process, and we have a very awkward system for them to try and do this. There is a guy who reached out to us who wants to help with that side of things. Now, this is to get to a temporary system, and we're in 2 minds about this process, because this is helping, in some fashions I see it as helping the government sort out a problem, which I don't believe we should be doing at all. They've created the problem. They should turn it back to a system that worked until the system is reset in so many different fashions. From, like I've said, done a video on the actual native wildlife that's about to be destroyed with the laws they're putting forward, because they won't let people do the pest control in places they should do, from the licenses to the lack of firearms. There's so much of a mess, and there's 1,000 things you could go on about and attack in what they've tried to do. But this particular one, there's a positive to me, or the not complying is not very simple. The whole world says just don't comply. No, we have not just the thought is that our police force will take examples of people. So there will be massive victims, and they don't mind. We saw what happened in COVID. They don't mind destroying your livelihood. They don't mind destroying your life if the law says this. Then we can just do this. Our law is done that way. I won't say all the police officers are like that by any means. There may be some, there are some. There's a lot that aren't whatsoever. A lot of unhappy police forces having to enforce this sort of stuff. But our laws, or the way our hierarchy of our police force have structured things, do not care. So the do not comply en masse, make a few examples of that, that's just sacrificing a few people pretty heavily, which becomes a way that they win. So that's not so simple. I do believe making it as hard as possible and not helping them is a very positive thing. But that doesn't mean we should leave the stranded alone by saying, well, that's not our fault, that's the police fault, they should sort it out, because they're not going to. So below is a guy, he has a bit of a strategy to go with all this, a guy called Nicholas, or Nick, who has an email which you can email, and he's talking about going and helping people to get their properties registered onto the transitional system, so that lets shooters register their firearms to that, or get that authority type thing, without using the My ID or the government ID system, so the digital ID system. So there is a way to do it. It's complicated. He's going to go and help with that side of things. I think he also has the plan to try and turn that into a bigger thing, so that it becomes, this is a larger problem, and to make it awkward for the government in a different fashion. But it's worthwhile if you are in that situation, you have a property, you don't know how to do this. Digital ID is not something you don't want to do. It's not something that you can do because of your circumstances or whatever your reason is. Then Nick is certainly there to help. So email below, contact him, and he is there to help with this side of things. Okay. I suppose that leads us into, pardon me, the bit that I want to sort of talk about is the stand together or fall divided. That's very much the situation we're in at this moment. There is negativeness coming from all over the place. This group against that group, certainly with the likes of like Kate at Lady Liberty. She has moved to the USA. So all the haters are on that bandwagon. Look, she's taken your money and run. That's not the case at all. They either haven't bothered to find out what's actually going on, or they have and they don't care anyway. Kate, definitely, I don't know Kate personally. I have keep in touch with, or I don't keep in touch. I keep and watch her podcast, which I suggest to anyone who's in this situation to keep an eye on it. She is definitely left for real reasons, both emotional and financial reasons. She went to a job over in the USA. It does not change the legal situation. That money she has pledged, and I believe from her whole attitude, from the whole time she's been doing this sort of thing, she's on the gun guy's side without any question. That money is being raised for a fighting fund, and it would not be used for anything else. It would be too damaging for her self-esteem to even do anything else with it, with all the things she's done and the group of people over there she's also with. This is about freedoms. This is about firearms. This is going to be used in a constructive fashion. She certainly has enough funds in that fighting fund at the moment to do the beginning stuff. If it turns into something bigger, which would be wonderful, then I think there'd be more needed. But let's see. She's going to come back. She's being very transparent about what's going on there, so I think that's fine. So the haters there, listen, find out a way to not split us up into groups. It's what broke us up previously in '96. It's what actually already happened through this process to get here. They picked on the larger calibers. Oh, it was just those larger calibers. If you didn't shoot those firearms, then we wouldn't be in this problem. Oh, now they're picking on this. It's not until they say that you're the problem that the FUDs wake up, or the people who are saying, wait a minute, it's about you guys, it's not about us. It's you're the problem. The attacking, the dividing ourselves, which the police don't do, we do. It just works to their advantage. And I'd prefer to be on our side than their side. So work out a way to stand together. If your organisation is speaking out against people who are on our side, and that means even if you disagree with their exact tactics, but you are still a pro-gun person, then work out a way to be positive about that. If that's nothing more than that, be silent about that. And certainly if your organisation or the head of your organisation is part of the attacking side of things, I'd question what they really are up to, because it isn't constructive for us. That's as simple as that. Then I suppose that moves into some other details that go into the way forward that we've got to go with this. There is a simple, as much as there is a battle, which I believe has to be done on all fronts. There's the legal front, which, like Kate started something. There's also the guys at Politics Reloaded doing something. There's also at another group, I can't think of the name, but there's at least 2 or 3 different legal actions happening. Whether they turn into class actions, when they turn into constitutional law, it doesn't really matter. I don't think any one of them can exceed by itself. It all happening together, with us all working together, with a large group of people, which is what we have to become. That's where this group has to turn into some large group of people. It really needs to turn into a large financial group of people so we can use that in a constructive fashion, but we also become a definite question mark on the horizon for the powers that be. The legal side of things, another thing that's very important. And then also us putting a combined front together in our, be it the sporting shooters and the hunters, and what this should grow into, if it goes as well as it can do, is it grows into where we're there for the farmers and the farmers are there for us. We're there for the four-wheel drivers and the four-wheel drivers are there for us. We're there for the bushwalkers and there for us, or the fishers and there for us. We combine, hopefully we can turn it to a large group on that front, but this all becomes a concern for the powers that be, where it's going to be easier, ultimately, easier for them to say, wait a minute, let's step this back a page because we're losing too much ground here, rather than the specific fights. It's about all of the fights that are the most relevant thing. So it also means keep your noses clean. The silly trophy animal shots on your hunting site because your mates in your world know it's really positive. It isn't necessarily positive in the big picture. So it doesn't mean stop doing what you're doing, but it does mean be thoughtful about this process. Be thoughtful about any form of poor behaviours. Be thoughtful about this. This is propaganda, and we've got to work out a way to spin it to the other direction. A simple question I have for the majority of the uninterested or gun grabbing or hating sort of world is when you stop and look at things honestly with what's happening in this situation, the police force and parts of our government are trying to completely disarm the public. Not their side of things, not the police force, not the military. They were trying to disarm the public. Fairly interesting given the situation we have in an international sense. It doesn't make much sense. There's other countries around the world that are arming the population because they understand the logic to go with it. But okay, we're not quite there yet, but we're disarming it. Why? With no statistical evidence of in any percentage base where firearms are a problem of any form in Australia. Of any form in Australia. Compared to alcohol, compared to cars, compared to sugar, compared to medical malpractice, compared to so many different things, compared to domestic violence, compared to all these other things. Firearms are just not a statistical problem at all. So why would you try and disarm the population? And I know all the reasons that you guys are going to say, but it's a good question to leave at that spot. Why would you try and disarm the population? Anyway, I think that's where I'll leave it for this one. Very important, keep an eye on the group side of things. Hopefully I can shortly say there's somewhere to be involved and become a member of, financial member of, whatever that turns into. I think even the likes of the group name is something that there's been suggestions that should be put out there as to what the group should be called. Whether that's the Australian Freedom Group, or that's the Australian Bill of Rights, or that's the whatever it is. Yes, it is about firearms at this moment, and that is the main crisis we're trying to fix, but it should be about a lot more than that. It is ultimately about freedoms, about rights, about maybe even to the level of bringing accountability back to our government, back to our police force. There's all so many things that are so relevant with this, and they're just as relevant for us as firearms owners as they are for us as Australians. In the way of what Australia was and what Australia wants to be in the future. This group has that at its core. So that's something that keep an eye on that side of things. The likes of for guys who are in the world of struggling with trying to get through to the transitional system, which ultimately, yes, I'd much prefer the whole system just get pushed back and we do a proper reset and make sense of it, but build up regulations and rules and a structure that suit everybody, all interested parties, and make it work that way. It'd be far smarter than some that the police decided they wanted. And on that note, I should mention something that on the brackets of where there's smoke, there's fire. It's now been mentioned to me too many times that the two of the key orchestrators in those firearm regulations that the police put forward, both Mr. Papalia, or Minister Papalia, the then police minister, and Mr. Walker, one of the heads of the police force that orchestrated and was specifically designed, or specifically part of orchestrating these firearm laws, both seemingly have special licenses or special amendments for, I think, what's been said, and I can't verify this. But like I said, under the brackets of where there's smoke, there's always fire. Mr. Walker has a helicopter license, and I think it's up in the Kimberleys, special hunting licenses or pest control licenses. So his firearms and his shooting side of things is thoroughly protected. And Minister Papalia has similar special amendments to his firearms license to make sure his firearms are protected. I can't verify that is true, but like I said, been mentioned many times now, and I will be interesting to find out whether that's found out through Parliament or through history as to how much these particular individuals, very much aimed at taking the firearms off every firearms owner they can, legal firearm owner they can in Western Australia, have put in had special amendments or special laws that make sure that they kept theirs. Anyway, that's I'll leave that one for history to decide, but it's certainly part of the information that I keep on banging into. But this is the beginning of this process, is not losing too many people through but not helping them. So the email below for Nick, which could be able to help people get to that place there, It's not all about complying. It is totally about trying to find a way of not using digital ID and to actually help people get, like I said, to a temporary place. The stand together or divided we fall, very much understand that. Very, very important to us start to work together. Find a way to work together. If we still have this infighting, this pushing one person, the other person, and I suppose I should touch on that a little bit. The SSAA. There's a lot of negative comments to the SSAA. And in some fashions, the hierarchy of the SSAA have certainly, if nothing else, by their inaction in places, through no doubt there's some logical reasons that aren't all negative that they're doing that. But keep in mind with the SSAA, the majority of it is volunteers. The majority of that crew, when you point the bone at the SSAA, the majority of them are volunteers. They're presidents of clubs, they're safety officers, people that directly work for the SSAA for free. They're volunteers that do a lot of good things, put a lot of effort in for our community. So be aware of what you're talking about with there. My comment with the SSAA, it isn't a fighting group. That's never what it was about. It is the go between the government side of things and running our clubs. So that's it's positioned itself as. Yes, there's money that it gets from the government with grants and bits and pieces. So yes, it has its hand in its pocket a little bit, and I do definitely see the negative attached to the side of things. My comment is, it's not to consider them as part of what are going to be on the fight. I don't believe that's very sensible. They can be a little bit down that road, but largely they're not in that position. So don't hate them for that, but like them for all the effort that they do. The volunteer group and the volunteer people, those individuals, and how much they do for our sport. So look at it that way rather than hope them to be the people that are going to fix this. I don't believe they're going to be the people to fix this. Doesn't mean you chuck them out with the bathwater. They still have a very valuable position. And I'm sure there's a lot of other organisations that are a very similar place. That's why a new fresh group that is about fighting this and is about more than that is very important. And that also says for the guys who want to do the hate towards Kate and moving to America side of things, she's trying to do the best she can. I see some real advantages in being in the different country and still being able to do this. She has some protection from some of those spears that are fired her way, and she's still fighting the fight for us. I truly do believe that. Anyway, guys, that's what I can tell you there. There's more to come on this. I'll try and do a video as soon as I have a group to be involved with, or we have something relevant to talk about. But that's my video on this time around. Thank you very much for checking in, and we'll catch you next time.